So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. I don't really post much anymore because YouTube and just this energy that's been really going on since 2016 has become banal, insipid, and it's become really worthless. And it's not productive because YouTube and just the powers that be in the world today, unless you create your own reality, they really do not allow you to freely use their platform. Because if they allowed you to freely use their platform, which is what YouTube originally stood for, that's, hence the name YouTube, then people would flourish more on YouTube. Your channel would not be blacklisted. So I just don't, I don't enjoy posting anymore like that. I just don't. But I wanted to talk about a few things. The first thing I want to talk about is, and everything that I talk about always connects eventually within the story. If you catch it, you catch it. If you don't, you don't. This is my vision, and everybody may not understand my vision, and that's okay. But I want to talk about the movie The Deliverance that came out recently on Netflix with Andra Day, Monique, Ingenue Ellis, and the great Glenn Close. Glenn Close played that role. I have to give it to her. Directed or produced by Lee Daniels. And basically, it's based off of a true story that took place, I believe, in Indiana. And it was about a woman named Latoya Ammons, although the character's name in the movie was different. Her name was Ebony. But the real story was about Latoya Ammons, I believe, and the paranormal experiences her family experienced in a house in Indiana. And it was a very, 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 very scary case. Okay. So before I even delve into that, I want to make a major disclaimer. I am not referring to the actual case when I say this. I am only referring to the storyline in the movie because, as you all know, they oftentimes, how can I put it? When a movie is told about a story like this, because this is giving me Amityville horror-esque type of vibes. Because remember, the Amityville horror was based upon a true story. Those of us who are old enough to remember that movie, the Amityville horror, with Margot Kidder and James Brolin. So it's giving me that type of vibe, but a black version. So I think, as they do with all movies, they add things for dramatization that may not have really happened. So I'm only focusing on the storyline in the movie. I am not focusing on what actually happened to Latoya Ammons and her family because only she and God knows what really happened in that house. And I think some demon hunter or some type of, no, not a demon hunter, I'm sorry, a paranormal expert ended up buying the house, the actual house, before it was demolished. But let's just talk about the movie. I saw some people on YouTube telling black people, telling people in general, it was a black guy, telling people, oh, don't watch that movie because you're going to open up demonic portals in your house and all this nonsense and bullshit that most of these niggas don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They are backed by the church that actually opens up demonic portals. Okay, especially the Catholic Church. But that's another story, honey child. Anyway, let's have a conversation. So, the movie, I'm only referring to the storyline in the movie, not the real life incident. In the movie, the character Ebony, which was supposed to be the same as Latoya Ammons, that was supposed to be the Latoya Ammons character. The character Ebony, she's raising her 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, and she's biracial. Her mother is white. Her mother was played by Glenn Close. She's having a hard time in life. She's raising 3 children by herself. I think she struggles with some alcohol or substance abuse issues. Her character, not the real person. I don't know anything about the real person, Latoya Ammons. I don't know anything about her. But the character in the movie Deliverance, Ebony, which was based off of Latoya Ammons, her character was having substance abuse issues. Her mother was dying from cancer. Her children were experiencing a lot of upheaval, a lot of issues. And she herself, Ebony, was not in a great place in life either. They were under the constant threat and supervision of, I believe, family services, because Monique played the, what do they call them? the, um, oh God, I can't think of the name of it. She played the family services. She played their caseworker from family services. And Ebony and Monique's character had a very, very intense relationship, or whatever the case may be. But then it went from that into the family being haunted by a demon. And I want to touch on the real case for a moment. And I want to say this. Most hauntings, and I'm looking at this as an occultist and as a spiritualist, most hauntings that take place are not demonic, or it's not a result of demonic activity. Most hauntings are results of poltergeist, or a poltergeist is not a demon. See, that's what people have to distinguish. They have to get out of this fear concept about demons, because people don't understand demonology. You know, if you are having activity in your house that is of a paranormal nature, chances are your house is on some type of nexus point or portal, or it could be that there are spirits in that house that don't know that they're dead. Okay? And I find it very, very disingenuous, and I find it very, very deceptive and very, very misguided and fear mongering when every time someone talks about having a paranormal um, incident in their home, they're referring to it as being demonic activity. I used to live when I was growing up. I never told anybody this, but I used to live in a house that had paranormal activity as well. But we have to understand that a lot of these homes that we live in, they have history before our families moved into them. Because the house that I grew up in was built in the early 1900s. So that house had like a 80 or 60-year history prior to my family moving into that house on Otis Place. And I used to hear and have paranormal experiences in that house as well. I would hear footsteps. It would sound like people were walking up the steps. I would see like goo and blood and gore coming out of the walls, but that wasn't demonic. That wasn't demonic. That may have had something to do with me personally. I don't know. for me to see that type of vision. But then when I blinked my eyes, it was gone. You know, I could have swore one time something slapped me across the face in that damn house. You know, but that doesn't mean it was demonic. It could have been a malevolent spirit, which usually is a human being that lived at one point. And they don't want to go. I'm just saying this for layman purposes. They don't want to go into the light. They want to stay in the physical world because some people don't want to die. Some energies or spirits don't want to die. So they don't cross over or they get stuck. These things do happen. Or here's another thing. It could be some type of interdimensional thing, like with the Bermuda Triangle. You know how the Bermuda Triangle is known for a lot of weird paranormal occurrences. And that's because of where the Bermuda Triangle is. There are pyramids around that area that are underwater, from what I understand. Because at one point that was dry land, but the pyramids are still active and they have crystals on the top part of them. This is from what I've researched and read throughout the years in occult literature. Doesn't mean that it's fact, but I've heard that. So we have to understand that everything is not a demon. Everything is not a demon or a monster coming to get you. And here's another thing too. Here's another thing. This is very important. It could be an entity. It could be a monstrous entity, but that doesn't make it a demon. If you understand and you study demonology, there is a hierarchy within the demonic world. There's a hierarchy. What we have been fed by Hollywood is not really what demons do. Demons operate on a totally different frequency than dead human beings. But we've been fed misinformation by Hollywood and by Masons and other, so-called higher up elites that guard real information, and they give us bullshit. They give us bullshit because they want us to feed off of fear. That's why they make movies like The Deliverance. Now, again, I'm not mixing this with the real story because obviously if that story is true, which I have questions about it, but if that story, if the Latoya Ammons story is in actuality true, then I have questions because they said it was like 400 demons in the house. I personally don't believe they were demons. I think they were spirits. I think they were wayward spirits that had lived, or entities. There's a difference between entities and demons. Same thing in the movie The Exorcist. Remember in the original movie, Reagan was supposed to be possessed by the spirit of Pazuzu. That's the ancient Assyrian demon of the south wind or something like that. She was supposed to be possessed by Pazuzu. But when that priest came to exorcise her, and there's a difference between deliverance, I'm learning, and exorcisms, but when the priest came to exorcise Raven, he kept calling on the name of Jesus. And lo and behold, guess who showed up when he kept calling on the name of Jesus in the movie? Pazuzu. The demon. Because what Pazuzu does, demons are afraid of Pazuzu. Pazuzu drives out other demons because they're so afraid of him. He drives out and keeps other demons away. And I found that symbolism very, very interesting. Go back and look at The Exorcist. Of course, they're going to say that was who was possessing her. But when that priest kept calling on Jesus and kept saying that the power of Christ compels you, Pazuzu showed up. Because what people don't understand is, and I know a lot of people gonna get mad, oh, I don't give a fuck. If you're a Christian, you shouldn't be watching this motherfucking channel, no way. But sometimes you have to call on certain legions of demons to get rid of other demons. Because there's a hierarchy and an order within the demonic realm that they don't really want to be fucked with. But Hollywood tells us something different. We're going off of Hollywood, and we're going off of the misguided rantings and ravings or philosophies of men. Okay? But going back to the movie Deliverance, everybody was so focused on the entity that they called a demon. That wasn't no demon possessing her children. Those were entities. Those were monsters. Human beings, possibly in the movie. Everyone was so focused on the fictional or the fictitious version of a demonic entity that they did not pay attention to the real demons in the movie. And the real demons in the movie were generational curses that were on Ebony and her mom. Ebony was a black woman who had a white mother. There were some energies between her and her mother where they didn't get along. There was some racial contention between she and her mother because her mother was white, played by the great Glenn Close, and Ebony was black. Ebony had substance abuse problems. Her children were not doing very well. They were living in poverty. They were living in despair. They were dealing with a lot of personal demons, inner demons, not the demons you all are thinking about, but inner demons were afflicting them. And as an occultist, I saw that. I wasn't paying attention to, the little boy eating his own feces and throwing it at the teacher. I wasn't paying attention to all of those over dramatic or over dramatizations of what they wanted us to interpret as demonic possession. And I'm not saying those things don't happen, but what I'm saying is in the movie, they were showing us the real demon that was afflicting that family. But nobody paid attention to it because you were too busy having, dumbass motherfucking people online trying to scare people from watching it, saying that you were opening up demonic portals in your house. Well, here's a news flash for you. Demonic portals are not only opened up in your house, they're opened up in you. Because everybody has personal demons. Everybody has demons. I have demons. You have demons. The difference is, are your demons consuming you or are they working for you? See, everybody has demons. And they showed Ebony's and her mother's demon in the movie. Ebony and her mother were constantly at each other's throat. Constantly. They were constantly arguing with each other. They were constantly getting into conflict with each other. But nobody paid attention to those demons. They were too busy paying attention to those entities that allegedly were possessing the family. Let me tell you what happens. When you have personal demons, sometimes they can cause things to manifest. They can cause things to manifest in your life unconsciously. Unconsciously. My family is a prime example of that. My family has a lot of personal demons, child. I ain't gonna even lie. They got a lot of fucking issues. And what it did for my family was it created, and I was affected by it the most because I was the most sensitive to it because I'm more spiritually in tune than they are. And that's not an ego thing, it's just a fact. What it did to my family was it caused a lot of division. It caused a lot of death, sadness, depression, poverty, and despair. That is what the demons of my family did to us. And when you have when multiple people are dealing with multiple inner demons and nobody's doing any type of spiritual work to understand those demons, so you cannot not necessarily get rid of them because you can't get rid of what's part of you, but to put them under your control in a sense. Because nobody does that type of work, what ends up happening is they end up running amok. They end up causing havoc throughout your entire life. Alcoholism, drug abuse, that was in my family too. You know, molestation, that was in my family too. Violation. When you're dealing with that type of recipe, when you're dealing with all of that, oh, and let's not forget Ebony, the character that Andra Day played, the mother in the movie of the three children. Remember, I'm giving away spoilers, spoilers in the movie, of course, but remember, she was SA'd by a black man that her mother knew because her mother, of course, Glenn Close's character, she liked black men. And when Ebony was a little girl, she was SA'd by one of those black men. That created a demon right there. But nobody pays attention to that. We're paying attention to people changing their voice and saying outrageous things and, you know, acting in the over dramatized way that they tell us that demons act. And I'm not saying that that can't be true. I'm not saying what it is not what it is, but I'm just saying that sometimes it's something else. And as far as the real story with Latasha Ammons, the person that Ebony portrayed, or which the story was based off of, I think that that house was infected, possibly if the story is true, by poltergeist. And poltergeist can come in as multiple spirits. They can bring a poltergeist entity can bring in multiple spirits. Go back and look at the movie Poltergeist. That's what they were telling us. A poltergeist can bring in multiple spirits. And it may not be a demonic entity, it could just be a malevolent spirit. There's a difference between a demon and a malevolent spirit. A malevolent spirit could be somebody's grandmother who was an evil, wicked bitch when she was alive. And she wants to stay attached to a particular land or a particular place. So when I listened to the actual story of I think Latoya, I'm sorry, Ammons, when I listened to that particular story, she said that she saw footsteps and she saw a man pacing back and forth in her kitchen, a spirit. That's not a demon. That's the spirit of somebody that don't know that they're dead, or it can be some type of interdimensional or parallel, how can I put it? Some type of way, it could have been some type of parallel portal into another realm or into another another universe that's parallel to this one. And the two could be intermingling. We could be going into their world and they could be saying the same thing about us. Like, who the fuck is that? See, there's so many possibilities to this, but we're only looking at it from a demonic standpoint because we live in a demon haunted world. Like Carl Sagan used to say, he wrote a book called The Demon Haunted World, because everything is a demon and a spook to somebody, especially if you don't really understand, what's really going on. I'm not saying that there isn't evil out there or anything like that. I'm not saying that there aren't evil spirits. I'm not saying that there aren't evil demons. I'm not saying anything like that. But what I'm saying is that there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of things being overlooked in the movie The Deliverance. And the real demons that people ignored were the demons that were afflicting that family, which were their inner demons, including the generational curse that was on that family. That's a demon in and of itself. But people want to blame individual demons. And let me go back to Latoya Ammons for a moment. It's interesting that her name is Ammons because her name is similar to an actual demon named Ammon, which I believe is a war type of demon. Let me look it up. Let me look it up. Let me just look it up for a minute. Wait a minute, give me a second. Let me look it up. Because y'all gonna stop, not people that watch me, but y'all gonna stop playing in my face. I know my motherfucking shit, honey. Hmm. Then there's the god Ammon Ra. And it's interesting she has that last name, Ammons. Let me see. Let me see. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There are different meanings of let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Give me a second, y'all. Give me a second. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Oh, Ammon, Ammon, the demon, um, is a demon in demonology who is the Grand Marquis of Hell and the seventh spirit of the Goetia. He is the demon of life and reproduction and governs 40 infernal legions. He's also known as the Lord of War. Okay, so the demon of life and reproduction and the Lord of War. Okay, so it's interesting that she has that last name, the real woman, Latanya. I don't know why I keep calling her. Well, why do I want to keep calling her Latanya? Latoya Ammons. It's interesting she has a name similar to a demon. It's just interesting. I'm not saying anything negative about her, but that's interesting that she has that last name. But that's really all I wanted to say as far as that. That I saw the real demons in that movie. I didn't pay attention to the little boy crawling up the wall and doing all that type of stuff, those over dramatizations that they show in these movies to instill fear and to, I guess, give, Christians their validation on whatever they want validation on, Most of you are dealing with demons and you don't even know it. And maybe to you that's scary, but most of you are dealing with demons and you don't even know it. But the real demons that were afflicting that family were poverty, generational curses, substance abuse, sickness, um, issues between conflict between mother and daughter. And all of these were inner demons that they just did not deal with, like a lot of us sometimes, But as far as whether Deliverance was a good movie, it was okay. I mean, I didn't dislike it. I really liked Glenn Close being in that role because I've never seen her play, such an outrageous role like Alberta. But that's just my take on it. I don't. Everybody has their own perspective or whatever the case may be, and I guess because I understand demonology a little bit better than some people, I can look past the bullshit. You know. But anyway, I encourage people to look past the bullshit and look at the real demons. And then look at your life and find out what demon is afflicting you that you may have created. Anyway, that's all I have to say.